Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to be with everybody today and share our thoughts and experience on making that move from doing it yourself to software as a service with people analytics. So we'd like to start just with a real quick recap of some of the takeaways. We're going to touch on some of the foundation elements of people analytics. We're going to talk about the costs, the value, the benefits. We're going to talk about the capabilities of people analytics, the resources that you're going to need to help make that move, help make those decisions. And we're going to share some video clips to get some points across, a few from leaders with experience in making the leap from doing it yourself to SaaS. So when we started people analytics discussion, we like to get a baseline where an organization is on the continuum of people analytics maturity. We like to use Deloitte Consulting's people analytics maturity model because they continually evolve it, and it has over the years, and it's based on their research in global human capital trends. So if you haven't seen this maturity model, a quick overview, it goes from level 1 to level 4, level 1 being, low in process, low in maturity, level 4 being higher, of course. Organizations at level 1, this complying and reacting stage, they work very ad hoc. They focus mostly on headcount, attrition, recruitment, engagement. Outside of that, they solve the needs kind of whoever yells the loudest, right? Maybe there's no informal people analytics resources, not a team per se, but somebody's doing it. And you're using tools that maybe you have at hand, your HRIS, Excel, other reporting tools that IT may make available. And, your data skills may not be the strongest, but you're getting some things done with limited success. And you can see 10% of organizations fall in this stage. Now, level 2, as you move up the scale, building and scaling, organizations typically have an intentional journey that's in place towards data consolidation, accuracy, timeliness, privacy, security. You've got a small core people analytics team, and you have a vision for people analytics and approach to get there. You're likely using dashboards, data visualizations, you're prioritizing incoming requests, you've got a regular cadence set up with your stakeholders, and 72% of organizations are here. Keith, you have a comment on that?
Yeah, right, Chris. So, in this phase, organizations are working hard to push data into a data warehouse. And if you've migrated to different HR systems in the past, then depending on how historical transactions and structures map into your current system is important. And you can often get stuck in that phase. So be careful. This can eat up a lot of time, and you need to stay focused on the end goal.
Yeah, there's lots of data wrangling, as we like to say, going on here at level 2, and this is where a lot of organizations get hung up. In getting to level 3, automating and broadening, right? So 13% of organizations are at level 3, which is where they're using data and insights more frequently. They're embedding them in talent and key people decisions, and you typically have that centralized model and cross-functional partnerships across the business. HR is playing a more active role in data governance, leveraging advanced tools. Things are customized with personalized dashboards and insights. And there's a higher aptitude amongst the HR people analytics team with statistical modeling and analytics. And you're spending less time doing ad hoc requests. So your tool, as a result, not surprisingly, your tools are more advanced. You're leveraging vendors and technology and services, which means less data wrangling and more time to really focus on the insights and helping the business use them. So again, 13% of organizations here. And then finally, level 4 in Deloitte's model is embedding and exploring. So this is kind of the pinnacle, but it's continually evolving. You never reach it and just stay there. You have to keep evolving in order to stay at level 4, which is kind of that state where people analytics becomes part of the organization's DNA. It's fundamental of how decisions are made as it relates to people. And no surprise, maybe the consumers of that people analytics information is much wider than at any other level. And, HR is highly data literate. So, Some level fours evolve their people analytics function into maybe cross-collaborative teams. You're using broader tool sets, things like organizational network analysis, ONA, using unstructured data like email, collaborative work tools to really mine that and use it to make better decisions. But not surprisingly, only 5% of organizations are here. So, this is Deloitte's maturity model. It really sets that framework of where a lot of organizations are, which is at level 2. As I mentioned, there's lots of things happening in that level that's preventing them from getting to level 3. We're going to touch on that in a moment, but what we'd like to do first is really take a poll of the participants in terms of where you rate in your organization on the people analytics maturity scale. So we'll give you a chance to respond to the polling utility that's in front of you. And Ben, when you have some results, we'll switch over and we'll start seeing some of those. Okay, a lot of people level 1, even lower than I thought. I thought maybe we'd see that spike in level 2, like Deloitte's. Of course, Deloitte works with a lot of mature organizations and larger organizations, but maybe it's not surprising. Good. Well, it's a little cross-board. Nobody seems to be at level 4. Maybe that's not surprising, given only 5% of Deloitte's research respondents were there. So let's go ahead and move on. Great. So with 72% of organizations at level 2, I said it's no surprise that Deloitte's research offers also some strategies, and we're going to provide you a link to this research report in one of the slides at the end. What we've highlighted, though, is the one, of course, that hits home with ZeroedIn in this topic, which is accelerating through technology. Keith, you have some points you'd like to make too?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there are great strategies here that can help you get past that level 2 and even for some cases, level 1. I kind of believe these are grouped into 2 main categories, data and technology. From a technology perspective, I think it's important to keep looking for outside the box for solutions that can help you drive forward. And from a data perspective, focus on the future. Remember, it's not so much about the what, but more about the why and getting to answer, why things are a certain way. As you can see from the list here, there are many points and regarding data and the use of data. And because there's a lot of data wrangling going on in level 2, these strategies can help you move forward.
You're exactly right. Without the tools and technology, though, you're really relying heavily on your people to do all that data wrangling. And we have a real quick video we want to show you that kind of brings that point home about data wrangling. Ben, why don't you roll that clip for us?
When data wrangling first come onto the scene, data was tiny, cute even, and little buggers running around. And the techniques they were using to keep it all together, total Wild West. Cut and paste on spreadsheets, manual calculations, real hack and whack wrangling.
Well, I'm talking the ugliest joins you ever seen. Nothing tied together, disagreement all over the place. Nowadays, you mess up a joint and someone's gonna get hurt.
You see guys out there now trying to get a hold of their data with homegrown and open source moves, and man, it's not pretty. Your heart goes out to them. They're just trying to do the job they've been handed, but the tools and methods just can't cut it.
Well, 2020 used to seem so far away, but now it's right around the corner. And modern data looks like it's from a sci-fi movie. Huge suckers moving at speeds. You turn your back on those things, they'll run you right over and not even blink.
We're not talking about fluffy little kilobytes no more. Terabytes, petabytes, exabytes. You really need to know what you're doing. Being a top competitor in data wrangling is a matter of being constantly on top of your game.
All right. I mean, in the words of Larry the Cable Guy, if that ain't funny, I don't know what is. Anyway, to get beyond that data wrangling, one of our clients likes to say, you have to get your house in order, right? And there's a number of building blocks that that you all are familiar with. It's a pretty common piece, right? The people, the process, the technology, but what goes behind them is unique for people analytics. So we're going to hit on those first three briefly, and we're really going to zero in, as we like to say, on the tools and technology piece. So let's jump right to the vision and strategy for people analytics. Keith, why don't you lead us on this?
Absolutely. So your vision really should define your end game. It's painting that picture of what it looks like when you get there. And of course, your strategy are all those steps that you have to take in order to get to that end game. So in this example, if your vision is an always-on analytics environment, on the right-hand side, you can see there's a few important strategy steps that are important for you to consider. Noting accuracy is a common theme as well. However, a lot of people forget the last strategy point, decision tracking and a feedback loop. These are going to be key in measuring your success moving forward. Great.
Thanks, Keith. So moving on from the vision and the strategy itself, which is kind of lead to how you're going to do that effort. You have to have people and talent in order to do that, right? So you got to deliver and execute on the strategy. Your team's got to be well-rounded. So while you're going to want technologists, emerging or seasoned data scientists, you're also going to want resources that can communicate well and understand the business and the problems that you're trying to solve. So, you can hire that talent already with those skills in place, right? A lot of organizations do that. There's lots of great talent out there who have built people analytics solutions for other companies. They come in, they do it for you. They're likely going to move on to the next company once they get it built for you. Sometimes you can rent your talent. You can bring consultants in. This is the value of a people analytics vendor. They're going to come with consultants that can help supplement your team in various phases. And then, of course, you can develop your talent as well. And here's a list of skills that we commonly find, again, highlighting those business skills that are really important, particularly at the management level. If you're looking for a people analytics lead, somebody to manage that team, you've really got to be able to understand and to be able to communicate with the broader business. Which brings us to our process itself. Keith?
Sure. So here you'll see a list of really important questions, and some of them are pretty tricky. So the first one, is the answer most likely is going to be outside your department. So starting developing relationships and rapport is going to be critical. You may have to get outside your comfort zone on that one. For the second, keep in mind the method to receive information may vary on the type of information. For example, scheduling reports sent in an email is good for highly detailed information. You can use graphs for trend analysis and comparisons. And of course, a face-to-face meeting is really good for statistical analysis and discovery storytelling. But no matter what, you have to really be prepared for all these different delivery methods. For question 3, the third question, keep in mind the ask often does not answer what is really needed. So you need to learn to dig and probe, get more information, ask a lot of questions. And sometimes the ask can already be answered with an existing method or perhaps a tweak to an existing one. When it comes to prioritization, look for any low-hanging fruit or times you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. For other requests, know or consider, do you even have or can you even get the data to satisfy the request? It may come by grouping data together or just simply aggregation methods. Lastly, determine if there's any security implications in resolving these requests. When it comes to data sources, this last question, you may be using both internal and external sources. So learn ETL, that stands for extract, transform, and load. And consider the size of data, the speed to transform, time to refresh any measurements, the need to combine data with other data, which is done through keys, and any aggregation or security requirements that are important. These are all things that a SaaS provider should be aware of. Chris?
And be able to help you with, if not take on a lot of that for you. How about the kind of process do's and don'ts?
Yeah, pretty good list here. From a don't, I think don't work in ad hoc. Make sure things are repeatable, and exceptions are everything. Use that feedback loop to make sure that you're on the right path.
Good deal. Yeah. So don't want to belabor a lot of this, but you're exactly right. Establish your metrics. You got to measure your success, and don't ignore the feedback, because that's how you're going to improve. You got to take constructive criticism. And we know data. This whole job of people analytics is kind of messy. That data wrangling, and you're looking to get beyond that. And that's a great lead into the tools and technology. So this is where we're going to spend the bulk of our time here, talking about the capabilities and the strengths and the benefits and the costs, and building and presenting that business case when you decide you're ready to make the move. All of our clients start on the DIY path, and many still use, third-party IT-driven solutions and data visualization tools for their special projects. But they've kind of they've gotten to that level 2 of maturity, and they've hit a wall, right? So it's those DIY tools like Excel and Tableau and SaaS, Alteryx. Some of these. There's many others out there. Fill in the blank in the the tool du jour that you're using, and you get the picture. You pulling data together, trying to merge it and clean it and reclassify it, and then put it into visualizations and secure it. It's tedious. And there's integrated HR systems. Your core HR. You might be on Workday, you might be on Ultimate Software, or Oracle, or ZeroedIn, or Dayforce, whatever that might be, SAP. They all include some level of analytics. A lot of it's built in, some of it's an upsell or an add-on. But analytics isn't their focus. Their focus is on managing HR transactions, and they seem to never grease that squeaky wheel enough to really answer the mail on reporting and analytics. So the other challenge is that unless you're completely in on a solution, typically your applicant tracking is on something else, and your learning management is something else, and maybe you have grievance management, and your benefit systems are outsourced. So you still need a place to pull all that together. Now, the data aggregators, they can help with that. There's all types of third-party, just IT-driven data aggregator tools, and there's a couple of data aggregators, specifically for people analytics. And what they're great at is getting the data out of the various cloud providers that you use. And some, as I said, the people analytics focused aggregators organize that data, into people related metrics and facts. But then they kind of hand it back to you and say, okay, visualize it using one of the tools of choice. So there's still a lot of work to do, if you know what I mean. And then there's the pure play people analytics vendors, right? There's a handful of vendors out there like ZeroedIn, who really specializes on delivering analytics in a meaningful way, helping you from start to finish and all steps in between. So we're gonna discuss some of those capabilities. We're gonna talk about some of those vendors. But one of the most important deliverables from a pure play people analytics provider like ZeroedIn is the breadth of predefined measures that get calculated and presented for you kind of right out of the box. So if we look at, the DIY side, a lot of the focus there is around headcount, terminations, turnover, net new hires. When you begin to open up the aperture and try to get into other areas, you have to add people and you have to add resources that, we're going to talk about the costs, but it gets very costly. And the requests keep coming in and backlogging. So when you partner with a SaaS analytics provider, They bring so many more insights into retention and engagement and recognition and learning and talent and performance and the relationships between those, how one affects the other, right? How absenteeism is affecting turnover. Because they have a model that all of these measures flow into, and you're going to see that in a minute. Think about how you would build all of this yourself. Can you imagine how long it would take, using one of the DIY tools, formulating the measures, and then transforming it and then trying to visualize it. So there's, as I mentioned, there is a whole process. Keith, I'd like to, if you would review this, kind of how this works when, a client engages with a people analytics provider, what they're doing for you.
Yeah, this is the world we live in, and it really starts with data collection. We understand that data is siloed. It's in those best of breed systems, the payrolls, the benefits, the LMS systems out there. And of course, you've got lots of data in CSV and Excel format and all over the place. So we definitely understand that. But our first effort is to collect that information. And of course, not just that internal information, we need to consider external data sets, things maybe from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics or the CDC or other funded sources to collect that information, because that's going to have to go into the mix as well. Then we move into this transfer and store, and this is where we utilize our ETL tools, our extract, transform, and load tools into a single location. All of this has to be done in an automated and repeatable process. This shouldn't have to kill us every month, every quarter, every year, every day when we're collecting new information. It's got to be repeatable. And then we use our transformation mechanisms to clean, to merge, to group data, and potentially even generate new data and insights using statistical models or grouping and aggregation. Again, all this too must be automated and repeatable. And none of this really has any valuable unless there's a configurable delivery support system that goes along with it, where you can schedule reports, have discoverable dashboards, integrated security, and of course, automating alerts when certain thresholds are met. Chris, you want to add to that?
Yeah. No, we're gonna see some of that, some of those advanced capabilities, and what kind of happens there. But you mentioned this process has to take place. If you're trying to do it yourself, you're doing this process. Vendors happen to have kind of a very streamlined way that they're able to kind of break that horse, right? If we're horse trainers, we can break a thoroughbred or an Appaloosa or a quarter horse. We know how to deal with horses. So we do this day in and day out. We also, in our case, we provide a full analytics concierge to really help our clients through this whole life cycle and continue to evolve it. So let's hit on some of those advanced capabilities as well. That you're going to find in a software as a service people analytics tool set. We talked about this core library of measures that really goes beyond just headcount and terminations and turnover. It focuses on absenteeism and turnover and everything from core HR, applicant tracking and recruitment, from your benefit system, from your payroll. So whether we're looking at average salaries or compa ratios or total rewards, looking at learning and talent, performance. So very broad. You're getting data science expertise from your software as a service provider. They're aggregating disparate data sets, as Keith alluded, cleansing it, prepping it, working with machine learning and AI. That delivery method model that Keith mentioned, that user interface, has personalized dashboards and drill down and discovery. It's got built-in security and workflows, which is very difficult to build when you're trying to do it yourself. There's built-in collaboration and annotation routines and alerts and recommendations that offer consumers of your analytics actions that should be taken. And of course, Keith mentioned access to external data sets, which can also be leveraged for benchmarking. So these are just some of the advanced capabilities. We talked about that feedback loop and tracking of actions that are taken that can continually evolve the process and show you the value that you're getting out of your analytics solution. One of the other, it's not on this slide, is when ZeroedIn, as an example, works with predictive models, we use a technique called explainable AI, which is not found in some of the integrated predictive models, say in your integrated HR system that might be doing a flight risk or an attrition model. They're pretty much a black box. They're going to give you a rating, a probability score, and you got to believe it. With explainable AI, you actually get all of the inputs and their relevance to the prediction score, all the way down to the individual level. So again, that advanced capability is something that's very difficult to build yourself. So these are the advanced capabilities. With them come benefits. So this is, we want to do a poll here about the benefits of SaaS people analytics and what would be most important to you, whether it's speed to delivery of insights, lower labor costs, improved reporting quality, greater confidence, improved experience. As we get in results, we can show those, Ben. And these really exclude also those, I don't want to say intangible, the business results, right? There's obviously, if we can reduce turnover through better analytics, we're going to, reduce our total cost of workforce, right? So which are big dollars, of course. So individual metrics and insights, will have a particular business benefit as well in terms of hard monetized dollars.
Interesting results
Great.
here, Chris. Before the meeting, I bet, Chris, that greater confidence in decision making was going to be the highest. It looks like I'm losing that bet, Chris.
Okay, yeah. So improve reporting quality, and again, the data wrangling. There's HR data is dirty by nature, right? Sorry to say that, HR professionals, but it's all manually entered for the most part, unless and even if it's flowing from another system like an Indeed or from the top of the funnel, all that applicant tracking data is dirty too. So let's go ahead and move on. We'll kind of jump past the benefits which we can monetize, and so as we do that, and we begin this path down this course of I think I might want a talk to some vendors. Where do we go? Well, there's actually two organizations that have done a real good job. This particular one has some new research. I mentioned Deloitte with their people analytics maturity model. They also have done a lot of vendor research as well from the Deloitte side. But this organization, Red Thread Research, just in December of 2020, released their market analysis on people analytics technology. And you can actually find an interactive tool on their website that gives you some high-level information on each vendor, and more detailed information is available from them, but through a modest annual subscription to their research program. If you're familiar with these types of matrices, they work on two different axes, an x-axis and a y-axis. Now, you may have seen something like this with, say, Gartner's Magic Quadrant. They show Gartner likes to use the axis of ability to execute, right, which is to perform, right, for their clients, and completeness of vision. Red Thread in their research compares vendors on two different aspects, which is usage frequency and data sources. Where's the data coming from? So for usage frequency, the x-axis moves from frequent analysis to continuous analysis, meaning, okay, I'm doing it frequently. I'm doing it, monthly, quarterly, yearly, versus I'm doing it continuously, on an ongoing basis as part of decision making. And then for data sources, the y-axis moves up and down from data creator. Think of, applicant tracking tools, right? That you're creating data because you're collecting that data. Survey tools are data creators, to data integrators who are pulling from core HR and payroll systems and so on. So, what the scale does is it's expressing the number and types of sources that are integrated. So you won't be surprised that, people analytics and workforce planning tools are sort of in those top two quadrants up above the x-axis and, or not up above, the middle of the y-axis area, and survey vendors who are creating data are below. Now, the placement in the scale is based on interviews and researches and forms that the vendors fill out for Red Thread. So the placement isn't exact, it's an interpretation, and it no means expresses the capabilities of every vendor in the space. But here's in the nutshell what their 2020 findings say, that more solutions are kind of creating and integrating data, so things are compressing towards the center. You see that with kind of ZeroedIn sitting there, because we also offer some surveying capabilities for new hire and engagement and exit surveys. And more solutions are making this move to continuously make those insights available, right? You're probably asking yourself, why are some of these vendors even on this chart? But I believe that there's some marketing noise as well amongst the HCM community and others that are contributing to that. So you leverage Red Thread's research, leverage Deloitte's people analytics research to help you get an idea of the vendor landscape. And when you start saying, hey, I want to talk to ZeroedIn, I want to talk to one of these other vendors, there's information that you're going to want to have in hand. And what we'd like to do is jump to this next video. Ross Sparkman, who helped set up workforce planning and analytics at Facebook, does a good job of talking about some of the importance of data and technology, and shares some questions that you should ask when you start talking to people analytics and technology vendors. Ben, let's go ahead and roll that.
I want to talk a little bit about data and technology now. And first, the data piece. And I was talking a little bit about this earlier, but before I dive into data, and before I dive into technology, I really want to stress the importance of understanding your data and the structure of your data, okay? And the reason why I think this is important for HRIS and when we're pursuing some type of a strategy like this is, when HRIS systems were created for a lot of companies, there often wasn't the mindset that the data would be used for workforce planning and people analytics. It was more just a way of tracking. And so sometimes the data are messy, and when we go to try to use that data, they become a lot less useful because of some legacy stuff that happened in the past. So rather than going out and doing analysis where the actual data are correct according to the system, but don't reflect reality, and going through the process of analysis and presenting to our stakeholders only to find that it's not what's really happening in the world and losing all credibility, go through the exercise first of cleaning up the data and doing a data inventory and ensuring that the data that are reflected in the system are reflective of what's actually happening in real life. Really, really important. Then we want to think about technology. If we're going to really, truly scale and grow and deliver a good strategic workforce planning function, we want to have some type of technology strategy in place. We want to think about, and some of the things that we want to think about are the usability. If we do a tool, we'll kind of assume that we're going to deliver some sort of a tool to deliver insights here and to track and deliver workforce plans. How usable is it? Is it something that's simple, intuitive for our stakeholders to use if it's going to be a tool that's used by our stakeholders? Is it relevant? In other words, if it's an external tool, are the metrics in the tool and the data that are being shown in the tool relevant to the organization, or do they not make any sense in the context of what you're trying to achieve with your vision? Scalability, is it a technology that's scalable? Okay, or is it something that is not going to scale with the business? Cost versus the benefit. We want to think about if it is a off-the-shelf solution, how much is it going to cost versus how much value is it going to deliver? And that's really important, okay? And so a good way to think about, I'm going to skip this slide right here and just talk, because we're almost out of time, talk about how do we actually select a vendor if we're looking for a tool. And this is a really good sort of assessment to potentially use if you're going to choose to go with a vendor. Ask a bunch of questions, rank those questions on mean the most for your organization, and grade the vendor then based on how they perform against the criteria that you've selected. Does the vendor provide customization? Is that going to be important to your organization? Yes or no? Okay. How secure is the data? This is obviously a huge factor for a lot of organizations. Is the vendor secure in terms of their data? What sort of ongoing support and training will be provided? If you have a really small team and you're trying to leverage this technology and scale it, and you don't have a lot of context on how to use it yourself, are they going to provide support and training for you and your organization? How easy will the software be to integrate with your current systems? If you have a bunch of legacy systems that are still commonly in use, is this software solution going to be able to integrate with those systems? Will there be references provided? Right? We want to definitely ensure that if we're going to take a blind leap of faith with a vendor, they provide some sort of references where we can ensure that they actually are delivering to other customers what they've promised to deliver to you. And then how long does it take to implement the solution? If you're trying for a quick fix and it takes 2 or 3 years to implement, times have changed so much by the time it's implemented, the world has changed.
All right. So I hope that gives you a good framework of some questions you can ask some of the vendors that you're interested in partnering with, and think of it as a partnership by the way, because it's an ongoing relationship. Ross mentioned the cost to value ratio. Let's talk about that. So, from the DIY side, there's direct costs. The biggest cost is going to be the labor, right? Maybe IT has already invested in in a visualization tool or an ETL tool, as Keith alluded to. They may want you to share the cost too, but your big cost is going to be labor. There's also some hidden costs related to missed opportunities because you're creating there's going to be a backlog of things that you're just not going to be able to get to, and there's going to be insights that you can't deliver on. Keith, how about the cost of doing nothing?
Absolutely, it's a kind of a hidden cost, and it's if you don't do anything, you lose control of the narrative. You miss out, and you better be assured that someone else is going to beat it to you. So they're going to have those numbers before you can get out there and get in front of it. So don't let that happen.
Yeah. So there's clearly costs that can be monetized when you're going to start making that business case. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But then you have to be able to compare that to, well, what's the alternative? Well, and that's where software as a service provider comes in. Most providers are subscription. So they're working in the cloud. It's a subscription that you're typically paying based on the size of your organization. So it's different tiers, a different price based on what we'll call per employee per year, or perhaps it's a bundled based on the size of the employee base. On average, if I can't talk for every vendor, if you're below 5,000 employees, you may be in that, 60 to 70, 80, 90,000, maybe 100,000 range annually. If you're more than 5,000 employees, you're going to be up above 100,000, maybe 200. If you're really large, maybe in the 3 range. It's going to depend because, think about the level of effort that, those direct labor costs on the DIY side, you're offsetting that with a skilled provider. So you're getting technology and you're getting data science services, but you're also wrapping in all of the upgrades and the maintenance and the support and the capabilities that come with a mature SaaS solution. All of these benefits of SaaS can be monetized and put into a business case that can then be presented. And that leads us to kind of this next discussion, which is really building and presenting that business case. So you've decided, you're ready to make the move, right? Too much data wrangling, right? Too much backlog. Chief of HR says, there's got to be a better way. Now you have to build that business case and you got to present it, right? So you're going to identify and quantify the problem, right? We went through some of those pain points. You've got to monetize those pain points, the labor costs, the lost opportunities, the impact of doing nothing, the impact of continuing down the current path. And then you got to meet with vendors. You got to get quotes. You got to watch demos, maybe even do a proof of concept, a pilot, establish a budget as a result, you're going to get some rough pricing from them. You should begin seeing that the cost of staying the DIY course is, one, it's not sustainable, and then two, it's outweighed by the, or the cost of SaaS is lower overall. But then you got to document your business case. You got to present it to your CFO and other leaders, and you want to use those building blocks. You want to use all of those elements in that business case as you do that. And there's going to be costs and timelines and work schedules. You want to be able to show all that. Now, what we have for you next is really interesting. One of our clients, the city of Detroit, which is obviously a municipality, they went through this whole process, but they then had to justify their decision to the city council. Now, all city council meetings, or most of them, I guess, are videotaped. So we were able to get this video of Kimberly Hall Wagner, who's the chief of policy, planning, and operations with HR for the city of Detroit. In this video, she was, she's helping to justify their purchase request for a people analytics solution, as part of the city council approval process. So it's a little bit lengthy, but we've got some time. So let's go ahead and show that on a 5-minute or so video here.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Kimberly Hall Wagner, Chief Policy and Planning Officer for Human Resources.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Hall, what are we getting here?
So this is a talent analytics tool, and this is something that will help HR be more strategic in terms of our projections and predictive modeling. Right now, we kind of pull data from different sources. We have about 8 sources. This company will take those data sets through our various systems, place them in a data warehouse, and then we can all see the same thing and then report out in some predictive modeling and analytics. So this is very much a tool that we've been looking to have so that we can be more strategic in our decision making.
Okay, ma'am. Madam Chair, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning.
Good morning.
So when you say decision making, is that in terms of movement within
Absolutely.
city government?
It could be that. It could be in terms of targeting perhaps training. If we see that there is, for instance, an increase in absenteeism or FMLA or what have you in a certain department, we can look to see, is it a certain supervisor? Is it really an FMLA issue? Is it a training issue? So when we provide input from performance, input from demographics, then we can have a better handle on really targeting the real issue versus just kind of what we think it might be.
How is this utilized for the legislative branch?
Oh, absolutely, you could utilize it. I mean, for your reporting, you'd be able to, we could work with you on building data sets that you'd like to see reports for.
Because I don't know what that looks like. I haven't been briefed on that.
So if you think about, we have about 8 systems right now. We have the old PDS system, OT Pro, we have our learning management system, we have a performance management system. So all of those right now are separate and apart. So this would be kind of the glue that would bring all of those data sets together. So if you ever had a question about demographics or the impact of compensation on one particular group of employees, we would be able to quickly provide those reports and do some analytics on that. We could do some predictive modeling as well to say, in 3 years we predict this is where it will be. So it's a pretty powerful tool.
So again, I go back to the legislative branch, which is a little bit different in our offices. How would we be able to utilize it? What would you need from us to get it going?
So really it's an HR tool. So think about it in terms of your staff. So that would be the limitation. It wouldn't be for procurement or any other item. So for your staff, if you wanted to determine the best source for hiring, we could say you have a stronger likelihood of getting better candidates from Wayne State versus Michigan State. I'm a U of M fan. So it could help with sourcing. It's all different kind of components. Anything that HR keeps data or track of, you would be able to pull any type of data. And the wonderful thing is you can do different algorithms with different data sets to provide whatever it is you need. So beyond that, I can't really speak to your staff other than any HR needs performance, absenteeism. You can predict who might leave. So you could start with succession planning. We have a higher incidence of losing this age group or in this position with this supervisor. So it just helps you kind of target training and hiring.
And in terms of the software being used elsewhere, talk to us a little bit about the effectiveness and what landed us on this company outside of
Sure.
just the bid amount?
At this point, the real impetus for us using them is that they are 100% dedicated to HR. They have a very nice suite. It is very user-friendly. It's some of the other ones were a little clunkier, a little more difficult to read some of the data. This is heavy data technology, so you want it to be presented in a way where people can use it easily. We did have another vendor that had more bells and whistles, but it was a higher cost. And I think for us to start, this is a great company to start with. They are small. They have a lot of dedicated resources, and they are primarily in the government sector, where the other ones were more private industry.
So just in my last question will be back on the same question, proof of performance. Talk to us a little bit about what you've seen in the past in terms of their software. And again, outside of the bid amount,
Sure.
why this company, and really base it upon or focus on their past experience.
So to the extent that we were able to do a demo, we did several demos with various partners. We did it with Do It, someone from the mayor's office, so other agencies within the city were able to see it. We also reached out to their former clients and got some feedback. Beyond that, we wouldn't be able to vet. Beyond just the demo, really looking at our business needs. Lori Setlinski from Do It really looked at how the cybersecurity, what platform they're using. And so she really made sure they were vetted, and everybody seemed to be very pleased with this as a starting point for HR with analytics.
And the former clients, why did they break that? Why did they sever that relationship with them?
They didn't. They're still clients.
Oh, still.
I'm sorry.
Current.
I shouldn't have used former. Yes,
Okay,
yes,
current
they're clients.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. This is a corporate question. So I take it that this type of technology would be something that would be working with workforce development. Yesterday, the executive director talked about how the hiring process is going on with the FCA employment. Is this something that will be going to that? Because I think there were some issues that some folks brought out last night. So is this something that would kind of
No, this would be for city employees. HR does not support that workforce development. That's a completely different organization than HR. So this would be for data that we keep in our systems. We do not keep any data for workforce development clients.
Okay, when you said HR, okay, I got you. And you would say, you said it also can tell if a person is getting ready to leave?
It has predictive modeling. So
Yeah.
yes, it has machine learning, AI technology. So it can look at, if we have a good data set of historical data, it will look at those data trends and it will put those algorithms together to help predict. So that's the wave of the future for HR, and we want to get in it now.
I'm gonna put my name in the system.
I'll tell you.
See what comes out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna go no far. I'm gonna go no trouble. All right.
You're right.
All right then. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there a motion regarding line item 6?
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion to approve line item 6. Hearing no objection, line item 6 is approved and moved to formal session. Thank you again, Ms. Arnold, for your presentation.
Interesting, huh? I thought you'd enjoy that. There's various ways of approaching procurement. The city went through an RFP process, which didn't allow really for any type of proof of concept or pilot prototyping. We certainly believe in, kind of a test driving. If you want to get your hands and fingers on the keyboard and see how things work. As we wrap up, there's a couple resources we want to present and make available to you. Some of those you can get on ZeroedIn's website, going to insights and resources there, some white papers, some high-level talking points. And then as we mentioned previously, there are solution provider research from RedThread and their online people analytics tool, which is in the open, it doesn't require a subscription, but for more details, you'll want to talk to RedThread. Also, Deloitte has some additional, they have a YouTube video out there on high impact people analytics, some of their research. It goes into more detail on their maturity model. They have another report that's specifically focused on the vendor landscape and the vendors out there. So we want to bring that to your attention as well. So, at this point, we would really like to take some moments to field any questions, feedback, comments that you have, anything that we might have stated that you'd like better clarification on. Please use that. I'll turn it over to Alan, and he'll talk more about that process.
Absolutely. So we've already got a couple of questions lined up from you guys in the audience here, but I do want to remind everybody that if you have a question for Keith or Chris, just go ahead and type it in there for us to answer, and we will do our best with the time we have remaining. Of course, the folks at ZeroedIn will get a copy of the Q&A log. So if you're worried that we're not going to get to your question, you can, of course, reach out to them directly, or just put it in the log, and we'll make sure that that gets to the folks at ZeroedIn, and they'll be able to follow up with you after the fact. Okay. So one question we have here is from Thomas, and we do want to get to this. Thomas asks, can you share any business problems that have been solved with people analytics? There won't be any budget allocated without use cases to create actual business impact.
Absolutely. Yeah, Thomas, one of the ones we use all the time in our business cases is turnover, cost of turnover. Very easy to quantify, very easy to isolate who's leaving. Typically, resources like HR and or SHRM identify, average cost per employee is typically sometimes 1 times up all the way up to 2 times their salary. So very easy to quantify turnover. Another area is in helping to reduce turnover. So also, decreased absenteeism, decreasing in overtime as well. Our business cases where those happen to be issues. If you can't put a lens on it, and one, you have to be able to identify where it is, and then you have to understand why it's occurring. And it's understanding the why that helps you monetize that impact and know what needs to be fixed, right? Is it a transformation issue, in terms of training or process? So, those are some of the key ones. Then, of course, there's areas such as increasing productivity, and we're helping clients in the retail space look at increasing productivity of their store sales, of their distribution center volume. So that's why they look to engage with ZeroedIn, because we can bring in business productivity data in addition to their HR data to get a really complete picture of what's happening. I hope that's helped.
Excellent. Another question that I can answer right away, and we did cover it in the Q&A, but just in case anybody is wondering, could you make this available via recording for those of us who might have to leave early, or for those who missed it completely, had something come up? So yes, Dale, we are going to have the link if you come back to this link where you're watching right now by somewhere around end of business Eastern time today, we will have the recording up on demand, free and available for anybody who wants to view it that way. Let me see. One other question that's coming in is from Diane. It's a question about that high impact people analytics Deloitte Consulting 2020 report. Is there? Oh, there you go. We got the LinkedIn the YouTube link right there. But also, is there a report that people can go download? I guess that would probably be just Google the title, guys, or what's the best way to get that access to that report in non-YouTube format?
Yeah, I think there's a primer for the detailed report. Deloitte's, a lot of the research, I believe, is fee-based. I believe there's a primer, which is more of an overview that they do make available. We can certainly follow up with additional details. What we'll do is I believe we've posted a blog already on our website that highlighted their people analytics research. So if you go to the ZeroedIn insights area and look at our blogs, you'll see that there's some content there also on LinkedIn that we've posted.
Excellent. Glad we could do that. So Diane, you may have to pay for the full report, but you can at least get access to the primer if you look at what ZeroedIn has got on their insights page. So with that, I believe we've got we've covered all that we can for right now. But once again, any additional questions, we will get to them. The folks at ZeroedIn will have them available to you. And then, of course, you can follow up with these guys directly. So finally, I do want to remind everybody that this webcast has been approved for HRCI, SHRM, and HCI recertification credit. Your credits for attending this webcast will soon show up in your My HCI profile under the transcript tab. Just click on your My HCI dashboard, then Learning, and then Download Transcript. Give us about 1 business day to process everything and make sure everybody who attended is marked, and you'll get everything you need there. And while you're on hci.org, don't forget to check out even more free content as well as information on our certifications and events. And I'm going to say one last thank you to our presenters to you today and to the good people at ZeroedIn. We really love every time that we've been able to have these guys on, always fresh insights, always interesting stuff about the big wide world of people analytics. So thank you for that. And then I would also like to thank you, our webcast viewer. Thanks for spending an hour with us. Keep your stick on the ice, stay frosty, and we'll see you next time.